The 2026 primary is May 5th. That's 14 months away. And on the Republican side, there are 3 candidates already. The long shot, former Morgan County Board of Education President Heather Hill, the new entrant, tech billionaire Vivek Ramaswamy, and the one who'd been planning his run for a while, Attorney General Dave Yost. Over the course of the next year and 2 months, we'll be covering this campaign by the Republicans and the Democrats. Right now, the only one from that side running for governor is former Ohio Department of Health Director Dr. Amy Acton. I'll feature my interview with her soon, but this week, my conversation with Dave Yost. You've been in public office for a while now. You're term limited as Attorney General. You were state auditor and term limited before that. You announced your campaign in January after John Huston's appointment to the U.S. Senate shook up that whole race. Since then, Vivek Ramaswamy has launched his campaign. He's gotten endorsements from some sheriffs, though you have more endorsements from sheriffs, as I understand, some statewide executive office holders, candidates, and of course, President Trump. He's running in this outsider lane here, which has benefited J.D. Vance, Bernie Moreno, and arguably President Trump. Where is the path for you to win?
Well, I'm running because of my record. I've got results, not just rhetoric. I've won elections. My opponent has never won an election. And, candidly, I think I'm probably the outsider candidate in this race, because if you look around Cap Square, these are the same people that have fought with me during my time as auditor, sometimes when I've been Attorney General, and now they're all lining up behind my opponent. I don't think that they like that I call balls and strikes.
Is that at all frustrating to have so many years in public office and to see people lining up behind someone who's new to this whole situation?
Look, the endorsement that I seek the most, and I'm very proud of the endorsements that we have and honored to have them, but the ultimate endorsement is the endorsement of the people of Ohio. And they've given it to me 4 times.
Now, there was a memo from your campaign team that came out before Ramaswamy launched that said his early advantage was a sugar high driven by media and perceived association with President Trump, but that the Trump endorsement was the key factor. So the Trump endorsement's out there. You're still firmly in this race.
Yeah, and look, President Trump endorsed me in 2022. He has endorsed multiple candidates in the same race in the past. I would like to have his support, no question about it, but at the end of the day, it's the people of Ohio that will make this decision.
You talked about several issues here, like, for example, immigration. You've said you'd sign an executive order on day one to mandate local law enforcement work with ICE, though there are some cities that have pushed back on that. You've battled against pharmacy benefit managers, PBMs, calling them modern gangsters. You sued the Biden administration repeatedly over issues you felt were federal overreach, like the COVID-19 vaccine mandate, and also a provision in federal funding that prevented states from issuing tax cuts. What would be your top priority?
My top priority is to set goals for the state of Ohio. Every politician comes in talking about problems, stacking them one on top of the other and pledging that they'll be finally the person that's going to solve the problems. I don't think we live our lives that way. We live our lives by figuring out where we want to go and how we're going to get there. And that's what we ought to do for Ohio, is set goals. How about universal literacy? When we've got kids that get out of school and can't functionally read, can't learn a new job from an operating manual. How about we talk about Ohio energy produced in Ohio from Ohio resources for Ohioans and Ohio businesses and manufacturers. Forget about the interstate commerce and having to get federal permits. Let's focus on Ohio and not worry about the other states in the market. How about we set a goal of being younger and growing instead of shrinking, more vibrant? These are the kinds of goals that our government ought to be setting, and then we can talk about how to get there collaboratively.
What strength do you feel you bring that, say, Vivek Ramaswamy or, say, Lieutenant Governor Jim Tressel, who has not said he's going to run but has not ruled it out? What's your advantage compared to those two candidates who would be leading candidates in this race?
Proven results. When I was auditor of state, I found $260 million worth of cuts and efficiency savings through my work with our performance audit. I was Doge before Doge was cool. And when I was promised that I was going to go after public corruption, our work led to more than 170 criminal convictions for public corruption. As Attorney General, I said I was going to fight for Ohioans on free speech and federal overreach and religious freedom, and we've done all of those things. Everybody else can talk about what they'd like to do, but I can talk about what I've already done. As I used to tell juries when I was a prosecuting attorney in Delaware County, don't just listen to what they say, because people will shade the truth. They'll say anything to try to get you to go along with them. Look at what they actually did, because when you see what they do, what they did, you're going to begin to see the truth of the matter.
When you talk about public corruption, there are those who would criticize you, saying on the House Bill 6 case, you didn't do it quickly enough. You didn't go far enough in trying to figure out exactly the role that First Energy was playing, and former House Speaker Larry Householder, and everything, that you could have gone farther.
Well, that's simply not the fact. Those aren't that's not the evidence of the record. Dave Yost went out and sued First Energy and all those perpetrators, and we stopped the nuclear subsidy through our court action. That's $1 billion that didn't get taken out of ratepayers' pockets. We also stopped decoupling, which you understand because you were there, but I'm not going to try to explain it to your
that's
your
a whole
viewers.
other show.
but basically it was a guaranteed profit provision for First Energy that could have been another $1 billion. Who did that? Not the federal government, not the Franklin County prosecutor. Dave Yost, the Attorney General, was the one that went to court and won those victories for Ohioans. So I just categorically reject anybody that wants to criticize and say that we didn't do enough. We did more than anybody. And we have on top of that, we have cases pending against the private sector guys that wrote the checks, that provided the oxygen for the public corruption that occurred. We're going to hold them accountable too. Nobody's done more to bring justice on House Bill 6 than Dave Yost, including my friends in the legislature.
Are you satisfied with the settlement you got with First Energy? Because there were critics, including many Democrats, most Democrats, who said it was too low.
Yeah, and I have to be candid with you. I was, by that point, screened off from those negotiations because of the political posture of the situation at that point, and I didn't want to taint the prosecution. So I wasn't involved with that. I might have negotiated a different outcome, but we'll never know because I wasn't at the table. I had to trust my staff on it.
I brought up Lieutenant Governor Jim Tressel, who again has not said he's going to run, has not ruled out that he's going to run. If he does get into this race, does that change what you'll do?
No. Look, competition's good. The competition between my friend Vivek and I, we've known each other for a number of years. It's going to make both of us better. If Jim gets in too, I've known him for 15 years, have the highest respect for him. He'll improve the debate. He'll make all of us better as well. And ultimately, it's the people of Ohio that are going to be the winners there.
You talk about the voters of Ohio that you're seeking here. There certainly are a lot of pro-Trump Republicans in Ohio, but there have been some things that have been happening recently that have frustrated even some Republicans. The DOGE job cuts. You've got the Oval Office blow up between President Trump, Vice President Vance, and President Zelensky from Ukraine. Ohio has 45,000 people with Ukrainian roots. So I'm wondering, what kind of Republican are you hoping to reach? Who are you hoping will hear your message and embrace it over anybody else's?
I'm hoping to reach all Republicans. I think every Republican, regardless of your worldview, values proven results, values a conservative that acts on principle, who is fiscal conservative and fights for the people. So there isn't anybody I'm not trying to reach.
You are a social conservative, though, it should be said. You identify as pro-life. You've done a lot in the space about LGBTQ rights and specifically trans athletes in sports and that sort of thing. You've written on X that the left is incapable of coherence or governance. You've posted about the elites in blue states and the lunatic left. So it sounds like you're not trying to appeal to Democrats at all.
Well, certainly not the progressive left, because they are incoherent. The thing that you just cited was about a specific argument that they're making, which is that one of these people that are being deported, who are here illegally, might cure cancer or do some great thing. Well, that is true of any human being anywhere on the planet. So that argument falls of its own weight, because we clearly can't bring the entire globe under the thought that maybe one of them is going to cure cancer. Everybody come to the United States. That's silly. It collapses when you even think about it. That's what I meant when I talked about our friends on the left being incoherent. They really need to go back to the drawing board and figure out what it is they believe in, because they have twisted themselves into such pretzels that ordinary Americans don't even understand what they're saying anymore.
We got to talk about money here. Both you and Ramaswamy have high name recognition, according to some polling that's been out there. But Ramaswamy comes in with a lot of money. He raised a lot of money over the last weekend with the help of Donald Trump Jr., raised a lot of money, has a lot of people in that space that can donate money. How do you battle against that?
Well, we raise money too. Look, if all it took was money, you'd be talking about President Michael Bloomberg or Senator Matt Dolan. The money, what you need is enough money, and we're confident we're going to have enough.
I want to ask you about the questions you raised about Jobs Ohio, asking for a delay in consideration of extending the state's funding contract from, it's supposed to end in 2038, it got extended to 2053. You said you wanted higher stakes attached to that. You said it wasn't the same terms, essentially. State Budget Director Kim Murnix said because, well, she basically told you to back off, saying that you weren't involved in this and that your considerations were not part of the agenda there. Why did you raise these concerns about Jobs Ohio now instead of a couple of years ago?
Well, I didn't realize, candidly, that this simply wasn't on my agenda. I saw it for the first time. It wasn't on my radar. I mean, I saw it for the first time when it came up on a controlling board agenda. So I just missed that discussion last fall when I might have said something about it. But just because I failed to bring it up back then doesn't mean that it's wrong to bring it up now. I don't work for Director Murnix, so she might be confused about that. But at the end of the day, the original 25-year lease on those liquor profits included $1.4 billion that went back to the state. The proportionate amount for another 15 years would be $840 million. That's not included in the deal. And I said it ought to be, not to come back to the state. What I would like to see is that money being spent for the workforce, for the workers in our state, to do things like this. Provide retraining for people that are in an industry that maybe is going away, for industries that are coming to Ohio. To provide subsidized on-site daycare to encourage people to come back into the workforce. Here's the fundamental problem that we have, Karen. Jobs Ohio is bringing all these new projects and all these new companies in, but we're not expanding our workforce. That means that the people that are already here are competing with these newcomers for the same pool of workers. And I have talked with people all over the state who are hurting for employees. They can't hire enough people to take advantage of all the opportunities in the marketplace. So instead of giving all the money to the corporations to come here, how about we give them some money to come here and we give the workers some money to come into the workforce, that people that have been outside the workforce.
Is that something that you would be looking at if you are elected governor? Is that whole Jobs Ohio deal, is that something that you'd want to renegotiate or look at again?
Well, I'm meeting with Jobs Ohio at the end of this month to talk about this. certainly something I would pursue as governor, but I'm pursuing it right now because it's the right thing to do. And it doesn't require a renegotiation. It requires a commitment that they're going to use some of that very large pool of money to do things that are going to bring people back into the workforce. It's good for workers. It's good for the economy. It's good for the companies. It's right in the mission of Jobs Ohio. We ought to do it.
The state has been run by Republicans for decades now, essentially. Republicans have dominated in statewide elections. Do you think the state has been well run? Is the state headed in the right direction?
The state has been run way better than places like California or New York. Can it be run better? Yes, it can. And I think that we need to be asking serious questions. Why are we spending what we spend? On what we spend it? Are we getting the benefit of our bargain? Let's talk about one of your favorite topics, school funding.
I knew that was going to come up.
Well, here's the thing. We've been talking about funding schools for as long as I've been an adult. Going back to the Celeste administration. And the challenge is the problems don't ever seem to change. And they get a little bit worse as we go on. Maybe it's time we stop funding schools and start funding students. Stop paying for a certain number of seats in a building and start paying for kids that can read, the kids that can do sums, kids that understand how to balance a checkbook. And those kind of basic skills that we expect our schools to do are what we should be paying for. It's what people think they are paying for with their taxes. This argument about which school building and which school district gets how much money is really beside the point. We should be asking whether we're getting what we're paying for as an outcome of a student who graduates from school literate, numerate, and ready to be a productive citizen.
So vouchers have been a good idea as far as you're concerned?
Yes.
Short answer. Well, let me end with a final question that may be a short answer here. Would you accept a federal appointment?
Well, that's pretty open-ended. I suppose if they wanted to make me Speaker of the House, I would have to seriously consider that.
Well, how about let's keep it in the judicial area here. You are a lawyer. You've been a prosecutor. What about a federal appointment, U.S. attorney, something like that?
Look, I'm too passionate to be a judge, and I'm already Attorney General of a great state. Why would I want to be a United States attorney? I'm pursuing the direction that is on my heart. I care about the people of this state, and I'm going to keep going, and as long as they'll have me as their servant.
After our interview, the leader of the influential Center for Christian Virtue delivered what could be seen as a snub to Yost, who's talked about his Christian faith and advocated for positions and laws that conservatives have backed, including opposing the Reproductive Rights Amendment that voters approved in 2023. CCV President Aaron Baer wrote in a national conservative publication that he's endorsing Vivek Ramaswamy, who is Hindu. Baer said it wasn't an easy decision and that it's his only, not the CCV's. And he said he loves and respects Yost and the work he's done as Attorney General, but, quote, I believe in Vivek so much and I believe in the opportunity that is ahead of us that I felt like I